I must begin with the economy and a silver lining for Republicans on the lay of the land here. The Dow is down again. Nasdaq is up right. No, Nasdaq has just fallen into negative territory. Things aren't fantastic on the markets, and what always amazes me is the level of apologetics. You got it with Biden, you get it with Trump. Both sides rationalizing and defending. I want to do something here that is not for the simple-minded fool. It is to explain, not endorse the thinking, to explain the ramifications, not endorse, and then to explain how there's actually a lot of upside here for the GOP. It depends on who you talk to, but a lot of the people who are MAGA adjacent say essentially the president is intending to provoke a recession. Why? If you talk to people within the circles close to the president, they believe a couple of things, and they're not necessarily wrong. One of which is the government has artificially propped up the stock market. Government has picked winners and losers. Government has subsidized big business. And the government now's got to cut back. Elon Musk is finding ways fraud and abuse, much of it flowing to corporate America. That's coming out. That's going to hurt those corporations. This is necessary pain to reset the stock market and get it away from being a government-dependent stock market. That's explanation number one. Explanation number two is that a lot of wealthy people have benefited from the stock market, but the poor and the middle class have not. And this is essentially redistributionist, without being communist, redistributionist, to repackage the winners and losers. Who's been winning in the stock market? The big tech stocks have been winning. The big tech stocks are a bunch of multinational corporations who don't even feel America. This is America first. The companies that invest in the United States are the ones that are going to benefit. Their stock's going to do well. And this is a realignment. Painful though it may be, this is a realignment. The other explanation is tariffs. The president has been kind of scattershot with his tariffs. It's kind of the tariff hokey pokey. You put the tariff in, you take the tariff out, you put the tariff in, you spin it all about. We don't know. Are we going to have tariffs today, tariffs tomorrow? Are they going to be rolled back? Are they going to go into effect? Tariffs with Canada don't actually make sense. We have a trade surplus in manufacturing with Canada. Did you know this? If the goal of tariffs is to reindustrialize the United States, we're actually being counterproductive in putting all these tariffs on Canada because Canada actually imports much more from the United States in terms of manufacturing trade than we do from Canada. That being the same, by the way, also a lot of U.S. steel and aluminum plants have facilities across the border in Canada. The president is up to 50% tariffs in Canada because Ontario, we're in a trade war with Canada, which actually doesn't make sense. Except according to people close to the president, this does make sense because we want the Canadians to understand they must help us on other issues like fentanyl, border crossings, things like that. This cracks the whip and tells the Canadians we're the boss, we're in charge. There is a lot of disconnect in the apologetics. It's not rational and coherent when you dig into it. I had a guy this morning, in fact, I was writing about this this morning. If you text data to 33777, you can get my piece this morning. Let me read you. This is from Rob Schmidt. Rob Schmidt is a Newsmax anchor, and he wrote, the Dow is plunging. This is happening because we have a president with the, I'll say, testicular fortitude to undo a globalist economic agenda that's decimated American wages and quality of life. This is the pain that comes from real change. It's much easier to just pass the buck. I don't know that it's a good talking point, though some are embracing it, that the president has the guts to undo a globalist economic agenda that's decimated America's wages and quality of life, raining havoc down on 401ks, which have been steadily down since February 19th. In fact, if you look at what happened when COVID broke out and we went into 15 days to stop the spread lockdowns, the markets are responding similarly. The markets then were down 13%. They're down 11.8% now. I had a guy a little while ago on my Substack. He wrote this. Like all upper class people, just selfish of their own wealth. No doubt Erick is criticizing Trump after watching his Wall Street investments decline. I actually don't pay attention to my Wall Street investments because I'm there for the long haul. But what Erick and others disingenuously failed to do is first admit that only massive government debt spending has previously propped up U.S. markets, and the markets themselves have grown disconnected from any evidence of how the bottom 80% are doing. Lastly, Erick, like the Democrats, fails to offer any alternative other than a return to the status quo. Problem here is this is solipsistic thinking. It sounds very smart superficially, except there's actually not real evidence that massive government debt spending has propped up the private sector economy. It's what they like to say because it ties into Doge, but when you actually look at corporate profits, that's not actually it. You know what's kept corporate profits up for so long? It's actually the upper income stratosphere of 20% of the upper income Americans are doing a lot of spending. The other 80% have not. And you can't, by the way, realign the stock market to benefit the bottom 80% in a way that this guy would like. Why? Because those bottom 80% are also part of the investor class. They have 401ks as well. They're getting hurt as well. It sounds real good. It sounds real good to say, well, this has benefited the upper 20%, but not the bottom 80%. Actually, what the data shows is that the bottom 80% have actually benefited by having the upper 20% spending so much more money, and now they're starting to scale back. The upper 20% have spent the money in a consumerist economy to keep the economy going. They're starting to pull back. The bottom 80% have already started pulling back. They've gotten in debt. They're having trouble making car loans. They're having trouble meeting their credit card rates. This is just kind of dumb thinking. It sounds smart until you actually look at the data. It's a data-driven talking point. But this does go into the larger thinking that there's something off on the economy. The upper income people are doing very well. The bottom income people not doing very well. The problem there is tied to the government picking winners and losers. There is a coherent line of thinking there. Tariffs, I don't actually think fix this. But there is a coherent line of thinking that the upper income people have really benefited from Joe Biden's economy. The lower classes have not, and that's true. The problem is that as lower classes have gotten more invested in the stock market through their own 401ks and retirement plans, you upend the stock market, you hurt them as well. The president wants to realign things. One of the other bits of thinking is that we're turning off the global piggy bank for the United States. And essentially the through line in all of this, the coherent point in all of this is there's a thinking among some, and the president himself is in this camp, that the United States needs to do more with less. We need to be less generous to everyone else and more generous to our own. We need to build up our economy to raise our wages and produce more in-house. The trade-off here, however, is that makes things more expensive for everyone. There's a lot of stuff that we can't make as cheaply here as we can make abroad. You bring it home, you manufacture it here, wages might go up. There's no guarantee, but costs will go up. Corporations may not actually pay higher wages. They may just return the money to shareholders. So again, the wealthy get wealthier, but the actual workers don't. Now, if the president is trying, and I'm not sure that he actually is, I'm not sure there's a comprehensive long-term vision here. But if he is trying to upend and reorder American society and the economy, he's getting some help from the Democrats. I want to play you this audio. This is Ron Brownstein talking on CNN.
Well, I actually think this is the cornerstone of their strategy for 2025. If you talk to Democrats, they recognize they are in a hole. I mean, the image of the party is probably in a weaker position than at any point since, I think, the 1980s, the Reagan and George H.W. Bush era. But if you ask Democrats how they think they are going to come back, there is a debate about within the party. Do you fight on every front or do you focus on the economic issues? And I think most Democrats believe their best chance of kind of getting a second look from the public in 2025 is this debate over the budget.
Over the budget. That's what Ron Brownstein says, but they're deeply divided right now. And this is the conversation that went viral last night with Van Jones on CNN.
And then just lastly, Van, in terms of Democrats and where they go from here, this last week we did see them some people try to protest during the president's address, and then House leadership getting onto them, other Democrats calling them out. They still seem to be wandering around trying to figure this out. What's your take?
Can we ask another question? Do I have to talk about my own party? Can we talk about Ukraine or something? No. Look, man, we're screwed. I mean, we don't know. No, Democrats don't know what to do. This is a nightmare. Somebody like Donald Trump, we thought we'd at least have Hakeem Jeffries in the speaker's chair to hold him back if we didn't have Kamala in there to do the right thing. Listen, the Democratic Party is going through a massive set of internal crises. You have a party that got trapped two ways. One, defending a broken status quo that nobody likes because they thought that Donald Trump was going to make it worse. But when you're defending the status quo, you're going to lose. And then offending most people in the country, calling everybody sexist and racist and transphobic and every other name, and then saying, please follow us. That's not a good strategy, folks.
That's Van Jones. I'll say he's right on this. The diagnosis is right, and this is the point. Donald Trump has a lot of time. If he is reordering the economy, he's got time to do it. The Trump team is privately whispering they think they may be headed into a recession, but they can get out of it quickly if the Republicans deliver tax cuts. You deliver tax cuts. Should have done tax cuts before tariffs, by the way. That would have padded everything. But you get tax cuts done. Tax cuts pull you out of a recession quickly if there is a recession. But this is the larger issue, the bigger issue, the most important issue, is yesterday the stock market declined significantly. The NASDAQ was down almost 5%. And what were the Democrats doing? They weren't talking about the markets. Democrats were talking about Donald Trump's intention to deport a terrorist sympathizer. They were standing on the line defending an anti-Semitic terrorist sympathizer and also transgender activists. They weren't talking about the economy. Donald Trump's got a lot of time to deal with the economy, regardless of the rationale, whether it's to reorder the economy, whether it's to make it a more domestic-oriented economy, whether it's just to get the government out and pull government money out that's been propping up the stock market. Whatever your rationale is, what's happening is a stock market decline. By the way, this is the best time to go buy stocks. We've still got the greatest economy on planet Earth. We've still got the most resilient stock market on planet Earth. Now's a great buying opportunity for people who want to get into the stock market. There are arguments to be made. I would say cheering on the president for taking out people's 401ks is not the talking point. The talking point is this. We have to get the government out of the private sector. If we reduce government spending, the private sector grows. Let's cut taxes, cut government spending. The private sector is going to grow. And the president has time to do it because the Democrats are too worried about defending terrorist sympathizers and transgender activists than combating Republicans on economic growth.